Hello, this is Alan G. Davison. I believe this will be the last overall, I guess you can call this a commentary for the Blessed series, at least for today, anyway. I'm pretty sure I'll get up on, get in front of my computer and think, hey, what's a better alternative to writing today? I have to admit, it's kind of funny when I really think about it, is that I really do dilly-dally a lot when it comes to actually writing. Anyway, I think it would probably be good to go into the next character down the list. And he's not, he was a little bit of a, based off of a good friend of mine. I'm going to stick with Darius. Darius was an interesting character in the sense that me and my friend, the guy who came up with the initial character, had similar tastes in design. I'm a big fan of a good trench coat, a katana, and a pistol. I really did like that, so I had to switch the character based off of me up a little bit. So, in order for him to actually, I didn't really want anyone to actually borrow anything from anyone else in terms of equipment-wise, simply for the fact that it seemed, well, I've got so many different things out there in the world, in real life in general, that I really didn't think it would be too necessary to have two characters with a similar equipment set. Now, when he originally explained it, I honestly really liked the character, and to be honest, he actually ended up doing the writing the chapter he initially came into, and I, of course, heavily edited it in order to keep everything fluid and solid. And while he never actually went back and wrote any more of the chapters, I decided to keep with the tradition and occasionally give Darius his own chapter within the course of the first book. Now, mind you, other individuals went on to actually get this, but when it first came up, it was something special for Darius himself. Now, I really liked the idea behind Darius, but there was quite a bit of confusion behind his original conception. Originally, the idea behind him is that he was out there on a mission to get the MacGuffin for the very first book. Now, at first, I honestly went to the opinion that the MRF and the Angels, or Eden forces, so to speak, were of one and the same. He didn't exactly, it wasn't really explained very well to me, to be honest, and I tried to do my best to interpret it as best as I could. Sadly, things didn't work out too well, and for the most part of the first book's original creation, more often than not, I consider the MRF and the Angels to be of a similar group, similar but a different sects of it. Like we have we have the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, and basically, and they have their own smaller groups. But he was a little curious as to why I was doing it that way, and he brought it up, and I was like, oh, really? They were supposed to be two different technical groups. And I thought about it for a little while, and I said, well, yeah, technically he did. I just wasn't really listening to him, I guess. Yeah, I felt kind of guilty about that. So I went back. It was a little tricky to do so, but I fixed up the editing for that relatively quickly with no serious issues on that department. Now, I went through everything with Darius, and I wasn't really quite sure how to get the character correctly, but apparently I did a very good job of basing it off of the man himself's mindset. More often than not, he would be the type of individual who realized that just because he wanted something doesn't necessarily mean he was what would do him any real good. I really wanted to create I really wasn't quite sure what I was doing with the character, to be honest. Some people have said they liked him because he had a very dry sense of humor. But, to be honest, I really didn't see that a whole lot. Since, more or less, I felt that he would always comment or, get frustrated or aggravated with the current situation he had found himself in. I really liked him because he was a very practical individual, and when someone told him no, he was relatively quickly to not really care. He would get, he wasn't one to stick around. He didn't really care. He was always about getting his job done, and his loyalty towards his mission. Now, I don't really want to give a whole lot away, but for the character, but more or less that he didn't really have high hopes for his mission to begin with, and he just found the whole situation a problem in and of itself. So I really wanted to give him a another day at the work place, so to speak, vibe, as well as really show a lot of what the MRF mentality was in general, in terms that, loyalty was just about everything. So he would oftentimes go above and beyond, normal situations in order to make sure that, the people he worked alongside with were safe. While at the same time, he had a strong conscience as well. I really wanted this individual to be a person who left the group not because he felt that the group was weighing him down, but because that he generally felt responsible for the people around him. And so he oftentimes would push people into doing things that wouldn't put them on a direct path to conflict. Day in, throughout the course of the first book being a prime example of that. But more often than not, he quickly, decided that the help would be more, effective. And in the end, it really did work out to his benefit that he accepted help. Now, I really see him as an individual who wouldn't really converse with a whole lot of people unless it was necessary, always taking care of the job first. I really don't have a whole lot to say on this character, despite the fact how colorful he is in the actual story, and how relatively important he is into the plot. I really wanted him to be against using his blessing in a sense. Someone who really didn't want it to begin with, and didn't really care for, he really didn't like the attention it would really draw to him. Now, exactly why and how is, actually inside of the book itself. Since everything is, situational and stuff, I really made it so that he would use any tool, no matter what, if it, progressed what he was doing. And I really was, now that I really think about it, it is kind of difficult to overall peg who he is without really giving away a lot of spoilers on him. Much harder to do this than I originally thought it would be. Anyway, I really did like the character. Well, mind you, he's not one of my more preferred individuals. I really did create a character that I sort of wouldn't get along with in real life. In the sense that the mission comes first, and, that soldier-like mentality, which I personally don't think I would ever be able to put myself into that mentality. But the loyalty behind the soldier itself was always something that I always admired. And so I really tried to play that up as best as I could, though whether or not it actually shines through or not is up to people's interpretations. I really gave him like a really big... I'm starting to repeat myself like a broken record, but I really wanted to create that loyalty sense. Not just because it really would add some character to him, but also because it really did back his overall mentality of who he had to deal with in terms of Siler. Which, if you haven't read, spoiler alert on this next couple of seconds, Siler being his former mentor. Now, spoilers are over. So I really wanted to create a character who was conflicted about what he was doing, but at the same time would still follow through with it. That was always one of the core traits that I wanted with him, is that he would always follow through with what he started, no matter what. Even if it did sort of go against what he would prefer to do. Other cases would be, well, I can't really think of any other cases. At least not in the first book overall. Mind you, I'm doing almost everything from, memory of the actual writing process itself. But I really did like him. I did like his sense of humor. And to be honest, I really don't have a whole lot to say on him. I'll admit, though, that a lot of that actually does stem from that he's a character who you can't really talk about without really giving a whole lot away of the actual book itself. I really did enjoy working with him because he really was a complicated character to get down, especially when I'm trying to talk about him, is that he was always doing something. He was always doing something, and I really did start to push that a little bit more in the second book, was that he didn't like waiting around for things a whole lot. And now I'm sort of falling out of silence. I hope that doesn't, fade off, to be honest. But I really did start pushing that in the second book, more and more of his overall patience with things. But I really did see him as an individual who, no matter what, even if he was spinning his wheels, would always still keep moving forward. And for fact that he actually was working on trying to find the fallen angels for an entire year without much success on his own probably goes to say something to his overall commitment to a job. I really didn't know a whole lot to do with the character when I first started off, mainly because the whole events of the first book itself seem more like a sum-up than actual character, issues and bouncing off of things. Other than that, though, he was meant to become Dane's new father figure, so to speak. The individual he would sort of look to for advice and other things. But eventually that sort of shifted away. But the idea of a father figure in terms of the overall story did continue on, at least in some senses as a joke between him and Hope, another character who I'm still trying to figure out myself. So good luck when it comes to that actual portion of the story. But overall, I did want to, I really did want to keep the, Darius's overall, strong, sturdy, mentality of what I believed a good soldier would more or less be. I have to admit, though, I'm not really a soldier myself, so I really don't know what a good soldier would entail or what a bad soldier would entail. But more or less, I really had a lot in mind of what he was going through in his head, his past. And to be honest, I honestly think his fight against Sylar was one of my more favorite fights, simply for the fact that it wasn't really much of a fight to begin with. He sort of learns a bit more about his mentor, but at the same time, there's that underlying thought processes to everything that's going on, and it really does create some semblance of an issue when you really start to think about the overall story. So when it comes straight down to it, I honestly think that Darius purposely forgets and or ignores things that might not necessarily be a good thing to ignore, simply for the fact that he has a mission to accomplish. So I really did have some fun writing this character, but now that I really start thinking about it, I can't really tell a whole lot about him since he's so critical to the plot. Despite being, despite not being the main character, he is perhaps the most in tune with the entire story. More often than not, I really did give him a bit of a guilty conscience and a very, interesting character in and of itself. Now, I really I really did enjoy working, writing the character, and the guy who's based off of actually enjoyed the character a lot as well. He didn't come up with any complaints, but, that might go one way or the other. Overall, though, the most interesting aspect was the sword itself that he actually carried, the katana. It's actually based off of a real blade that the creator of the character actually had. And I got a quick picture of it, to be honest, but before I started basically detailing the sword out as best as I could. Simply for the fact that he was very specific on it. I hope I didn't have any copyright issues with that, to be honest. I better watch out. I could get sued. That probably wouldn't be very fun or funny at all, to be honest. Anyway, I really did put a lot of detail, and I really did start to have fun with with his overall actions. And his blessing was, despite the fact that it's kind of regular, I really did have fun trying to draw out new ways of him using it. I'm going to actually be wrapping this one up a little bit early since I find myself at a loss that I can't really talk too much or bring a whole lot up without really spoiling some of the aspects of the story, which is kind of a pity because I really do actually really like this character, despite the fact that I probably wouldn't get along with him very well in real life.